I want to be Mickey Loomis. I want to come back as Mickey Loomis. To think that a press conference a year ago, as embarrassing as that was for the franchise, of him sitting up there, swiveling on a chair, smacking on gum for an hour, answering questions and not really knowing the answers to what he's saying out loud, 1 year later, I thought was even worse for the fan base. I mean, look, not really surprising of what we learned. We didn't learn a lot from Loomis other than, Christian, that is what job security looks like. Like, I'm sitting there looking at him, listening to him answer those questions with this air of, as he described it, really, I mean, you almost want to kind of like thank him. I mean, it was like I'm thinking there, watching this like, hey, Mick, you can't fake me out for an hour. Like, you can't dupe me for an hour to make me believe that you really care about what's going on with the Saints. I mean, some of the quotes, do we have some of this? I mean, can we pull some of this from, there's got to be X accounts of Mickey Loomis windows of sound bites yesterday of just describing this like, yeah, it's good. I don't know. We hadn't even know. What about when he doesn't know the draft number? When he's like, what are we drafting 10th? And the guy's like, 9th. He's like, well, it was 10. Like, when? When, Mick? You know, like 2 weeks ago? I mean, like, this guy, he's running an NFL organization. And as he said it, as he described it, it's the best league on the planet. There's only 32 jobs that are available, not only head coages, of his jobs. Right? Like, I mean, there are people that are scratching, clawing, and bleeding to get to those positions in their life. Have worked since the day they could go to a job with the intent of running an NFL organization and are sitting in some assistant role looking at Mickey Loomis thinking, look at this guy. Look at this guy down there in New Orleans just stealing from the Bensons. I mean, like, could give a damn about the franchise that he is entrusted to run. I mean, that press conference yesterday was skin crawling for somebody that really just, you know, wants the best for the state and the NFL team in it. To think that that's the guy that's in charge of making the decisions, he hasn't even evaluated the roster yet. Like, he admitted it. Well, then, what in the hell are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Seriously, if that is not the role of your position, what in God's name are you doing? What could you be doing? Like, he openly admitted, we hadn't even looked at the roster yet. You know what I mean? Like, this is incredible. Like, not only that, the old lady could give a damn. She doesn't care. She doesn't even live here anymore. The idiots, the morons, the people that are arguing and have argued with me on social media about the competency of Mickey Loomis, I present to you example 101 yesterday. Argue me that Mickey Loomis is competent enough to run an NFL team when he doesn't even know the draft pick. He doesn't even know what number they're picking in the draft. And he's responsible for picking the team. Are you kidding me? Like, if and look, really and truly, I know that this is tough to sell right now. I really don't care about the Saints. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't move me like that. It just, it enrages me that is the guy that, as he described, there's only 32 jobs of these that are available on the planet. People would crawl over glass for that job. And so, like, there's a pool of people that could run an NFL, that could take over the Saints today and have them competitive tomorrow. Because they're sitting there looking at it like, good Lord, look at the hell that they've got the Saints in. But I could go in there and unwind this pretzel pretty quick. But they got this guy running it? Like, that is job security by the definition. That is a confident, has no power or authority above him that is going to serve him any consequence. If any of you, if any of us went to your job today and handled it with that type of mentality, we would be in HR by 4 o'clock. Explaining like, what's your problem today? Who do you think you are? What type of entitlement do you think you have to this organization? Like, you got a job to do, to get out into the public and to announce, we hadn't even evaluated the roster yet. What are we drafting, 10th? 9th. Like, buddy, we're live. You know what I mean? Like, we're live here. We're representing the Saints. I mean, you could tell he just threw that little, like, pullover on, pulled up the sleeves. Who's got questions? I mean, like Fletcher Mackel, one of the most respected journalists, reporters, media members in New Orleans, from the city, went to school in the city, eats, breathes, dies, lives the city. I mean, he's asking questions to Mick like, hey, Mick, do you feel like people are like real negative on you? He's like, no, people are mostly positive to me. My family doesn't really feel it. Yeah, because they don't live here. Like, it's not, what, I was appalled. I was shocked. Like, I was shocked into not being shocked. You know, I was like, this is amazing. It was an hour of like, it is what it is. You know, I don't see it like that. Maybe I've got too much patience. How in the hell can you have patience in that position? You know how? Job security. They're not going to run me. I don't have HR. I'm not going to meet with anybody that's going to ask me, what the hell was that? Nobody's going to come in my office and be like, hey, man, what happened at that press conference today? What do you mean? Like, you were representing us. You had the logo on your chest. You didn't even know where we were drafting. That's your role. Like, I expect that position to take that podium on the end of the year press conference and say, we're drafting 9th. Here's our strategy. We're going to go visit X, Y, and Z schools, and we're going to look at these guys at pro days and evaluate these guys before the draft at the combine. All right, that guy sounds prepared, pretty prepared for the gig. That's a guy that I would trust to say, hey, all right, Saints are headed in the right direction. If you can look at yesterday and believe that the Saints are anywhere close to competing for a playoff spot, forget the Super Bowl, forget NFC South titles, forget NFC champion, forget that stuff. If you believe after watching yesterday that the Saints have a shot, a prayer, a Hail Mary of getting into the playoffs with that cat running the organization, man, you're lost. Continue to give your money to that organization. Continue to wait on waiting lists for tickets to watch that? And pay what? I got to pay this to watch this guy run an organization that he hadn't even evaluated the roster. It's mid-January. You're not going to the playoffs. What could you be doing? Like, I'm asking a legitimate question. I would really like to know. Like, I got a follow-up to one of the comments that you made earlier. You said you hadn't evaluated the roster. Where would that be on the priority list of a team that hasn't made the playoffs, that hadn't played in 2 weeks? What would you be doing? Like, I'm honestly curious. That was scary. You know, I mean, like, if I'm a season ticket holder, if I'm somebody who works towards investing into the Saints, what am I paying for? Am I paying to be drafting 10th? 9th? I mean 9th?
You were 10th.
Like, holy cow. Holy cow. That guy makes a lot of money. You know, like that guy makes a ton of money to be running an organization that a lot of us, a lot of you out there are investing after going and working your ass off today. Man, that's tough. That was tough. That was I would almost put out a statement if I was the Saints, if I was the PR today. Like, can we have a do-over? I mean, can I get a web redemption? You know, like, I mean,
call Tosh.
That was embarrassing at the least. And last year, I thought was one of the more embarrassing things that I had ever seen. And this year I thought was worse. If you were really like watching that as a Saints fan, if you were watching that as somebody who's invested into the franchise, you have to be like, oh my God, like, send me my money back. Or let's reevaluate the budget of how we're spending this year. You know what I mean? Like, before we dump all this cash into spending our Sundays thinking that we have a chance, this is the captain of our ship. Like, this guy we're out in the open waters and he hadn't even cranked up the engines yet. I mean, do you know how many people would sacrifice a lot of things that mean a lot in their life to get his job? That are like highly competent people that are sitting at like a vice president, assistant, sitting in a role at some other organization right now that's competing for a Super Bowl, that would crawl to New Orleans for Mickey Loomis's one of his jobs, however many jobs that he's got. I mean, what does he do? Does he run the Pelicans? Does he run the Saints? Does he run the Benson Enterprises? What does this cat do? He hasn't even evaluated the roster. And I don't mean to keep saying that, but think about that. Think about that. Think about what's your top priority at your job. What's number one on your priority list every single day, or when you're in a reboot period? What's the number one priority? This is Mickey Loomis's top priority. And he just admitted to you 2.5 weeks after the season, I ain't even done it. I didn't even know. We ain't even done it. You know, we're taking our time with the head coach. We're gonna be patient there. Gotta evaluate guys. He's got Joe Brady. I mean, Joe Brady might be in the Super Bowl. Aaron Glenn might be in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, like, you get to mid-February, you got the draft coming up in April, you got pro days that are happening, you've got people that are scouting. So he told you yesterday he might bring in a head coach who just wipes the whole thing out. Just gets there in mid-February. I mean, it sounds like he's going to hire Aaron Glenn, I guess. I don't know. It's going to be somebody that he's familiar with.
Rizzy gets an interview. McCarthy, now the new hot name on the list. Here he is. The beginning of this is even pretty much high comedy. He sits down at the podium and he goes, I feel like a teacher up here. I don't know why.
I just couldn't believe it. If you hadn't seen it.
We're in the middle of this coaching search that's been consuming all of our time for the last week and a half or so, and I don't have a lot of comments on it. I'm not going to talk about any individual candidates. We're early in that
then what are we doing here? Like, I mean, why are we here then?
Zoom interviews, and we'll have a few more, but
yeah.
With that, if you guys have, so one of the things that's a result of that is that we haven't spent a lot of time reflecting upon the last season. We haven't gone through our player evaluations yet, so I know you're going to have a lot of questions.
Sure we do.
Some of which I can't really answer.
Okay, sweet. Then what are we doing here, Mick? I burned a lot of fuel to get here today. What are we going to do here? What's the purpose? Like, keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. Hey, this is gold. This is gold.
Work, like who's all involved in it, and kind of how are you guys running the
Nick Underhill, most respected journalist in the room. You can hear it in his voice. He's like,
most of our football people in it. Michael Parrington, Jeff, myself, Kai, Dave Ziegler, and Randy are also involved. They're former general managers. They have a lot of experience in our league, and so it's really that group of people that are going through. the details and the process with me.
Gotcha.
We've never been able to ask you this because I think it happened after camp. But like, how did Dave and Randy just fit into like the overall global picture? Like, what are their roles kind of within the team? Like,
Yeah, look, they're
So uncomfortable.
talented,
Okay. Well, sure.
experienced.
I hope so.
People, Dave was with New England for a good period of time, and then with the Raiders for a shorter period of time. He's got a lot of experience. Comes from a different, line, I guess is the right way to describe it.
Answer the question,
than the
Mick.
rest of us. Randy, you guys know that I've known him for a long, long time.
Sure.
He's had experience, and look, they're doing all kinds of things for us, and I really value their viewpoint.
Hey, Mick, you run this organization. What are we doing here today? You know what I mean? Like, what's the part? Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. I mean, like, we're on a slippery slope here.
Talk about maybe this is the first time I think fans
Fletcher Mackle.
we've heard from you in a while. Just kind of maybe the state of the organization, firing Dennis, looking for a new coach. Is it a rebuild? Is it a restructure? Just kind of where you all are.
You think this one was
in the
coming?
organization right now.
Yeah, I think. Look, that's part of what. Part of what we haven't done yet is really look back and evaluate where we're at from a personnel standpoint. Obviously, this was a tough season, not what we expected. What jumps out is the amount of injuries, and we've got to do a deep dive into that.
You start getting them excuses rolling, baby.
Are there things that are preventable? Are there things that we missed in the evaluation process, for example?
Probably so.
So all that is work that needs to be done. I'm not a big, I think that you can, rebuild as it means different things to different people. I think that you can turn around a season.
Oh, thanks, Mick.
Pretty quickly in the NFL.
Yeah.
We've seen
You got Drew Brees and
with
Sean
other
Payton on
teams,
line one?
and there's a lot of good things on our roster, and there's some things that we need to adjust and fill in. Part of that is going to be the viewpoint and the vision that the new head coach has. So,
Sweet. So we could set a
there's a lot of
standard. We could
questions
get
there I can't
rolling,
answer.
and then he could come up and just blow the whole thing up. Keep it rolling. Keep
That
it
would-
rolling.
well,
Keep it
no,
rolling.
I mean,
keep it rolling. Are we tapping into something here?
No.
Okay.
But the excuse making. I mean,
Oh, yeah. I
do
mean,
you not see the Detroit Lions
and
out
hasn't
there?
the injuries thing been a situation around New Orleans now going on at least a decade? I mean, they've blown up the medical department. They've brought in new personnel. They've done it to the Pelicans. They've done it to the. I mean, nobody plays for the Saints and the Pelicans. Nobody plays. Whether they're injured, whether they're missing a flight, just the whole thing smells and reeks minor league. And then they send out the president of ops yesterday to give me an hour where at least fake it, Mick. Like if I'm behind the scenes and I know the real story with Mick and I'm his assistant, like I'm the guy who's working close to Mick and I see that he's checked out. He's making money. He's doing the whole thing. He could care less about the Saints. He doesn't care about the Pelicans. The things are making money. Everybody's happy. These, we all just keep buying tickets and showing up. Throw a Camara, let's do a Color Rush Camara jersey and watch these morons just scoop it up. Right? Like, let's just make some more money off of them. We got ticket lists that have been waiting lists, the whole thing. Mick could care less. But yesterday, at about noon, I'd have gotten behind him and said, Mick, look at me. Look at my eyes. Like, I need you to at least make it look like you care. At least put on for the people. I mean, we're going out to the public. Definitely don't admit that we have not evaluated the roster. Don't open the press conference saying I'm not here to answer any of your questions about the coaching candidates and about the roster and what just happened this season. Sit there and be accountable and act like you give a damn. It's only an hour. We'll be back at the racetrack before these people even know it. Fake it, man. At least make them believe. I mean, last year you looked like you were hopped up on some type of speed. This year, make them look like you at least are doing the job. Make them think that you're working. I mean, I went into yesterday's press conference thinking that the Saints ain't got a shot. I left thinking that the Saints are in a miserable tailspin over the next decade with this guy running the organization because before anything else, I felt There is no end in sight. That is the sign. That is the example. That should be the Google search that comes back up when I search for job security. That's exactly what it looks like. Lloyd, flash Mick yesterday, sitting up there on that podium, wiggling around with his arms folded, that he just pulled that fleece off of a Walmart rack before he walked out there. Make it look like I play and represent the organization. I mean, duped, spun. The only way we make our voice heard is if we quit buying the jerseys and quit lining up for the tickets. What do we draft? 10th? 9th. 9th. It was 10th. Sorry. A week and a half ago, Mick. I mean, just when you thought it could not get more embarrassing or worse.
This guy? Somebody.
Hit me.
The state
Hit me.
are all over this. You just gift him. Yeah.
So what do you do?
But this is his answer of going into the 7-minute mark here of talking about what he has done over the last 12 months. And Nick Underhill quote tweeted part of this where he said that if he thought about retirement, and he goes, I still have all my faculties. Which is a great right. Feel great.
Like there's no end in sight.
Still have all my faculties.
No. I'm not going anywhere. This is.
Do you feel like more change is needed than you even felt 12 months ago? You kind of had a pretty defiant air last year that things weren't that bad, but then obviously after a final postseason, does that change?
Look, I'm positive. I'm glass half full at all times. I see a lot of things.
We beat Rita and the crew. We got all the money.
Season, I see a lot of things that were positive that we can build on, and so I'm on the side of, man, this thing can go the other direction pretty quickly.
Some of that will have to
I
do
want
with
what
it.
he's
So,
on.
Me too.
Obviously, when you're interviewing these candidates, if one candidate is like, I would kind of prefer to catch up on the salary cap for a year and maybe draft some players and build a nucleus, and another one was like, I'd like to try to win 10 games this year with Derek Carr.
Yeah.
You're open to both ideas at this point, or that may influence which coach you like.
No, I think that one of the things that's really important is to be able to have a collective vision and be on the same page organizationally.
Sure.
Ownership, GM, coach.
And I represent all of them.
Coaches, personnel department. We have to have the same collective vision. Excuse me.
Oh.
Good
And,
Lord.
We'll get to that. All of these candidates are going to have strengths and weaknesses, and we've got our strengths and weaknesses and blind spots, and so we just have to go through that.
Oh,
and figure
Mickey
out,
Miles.
and we will, who the best fit is for us.
Les Loomis.
Yes.
So can I? That was a hell of a question by Triplet. Really, one that I would be very eager to hear what Mick has to say. Mick doesn't know. He doesn't know. He really doesn't know. And we can make fun of this. We can scream into the microphone. We can show up to the Saints games and boo. But the fact of the matter is, he's checked out. He doesn't do his job. He's not connected. He knows nothing about the roster. He knows nothing about what is alignment between the ownership and the GM and the coaches, like he's saying. They don't have a vision. They don't have any type of direction of what they're trying to accomplish or where they're going. The thing is a lottery ticket. It prints money. It makes money, and that is all that he is entrusted to do. And that's what this whole thing was about when this court case went to battle years ago when Tom Benson was still alive, and they battled the kids over the will, the money, the franchise, all the businesses, the car dealerships, the horse farms, the everything. And Gail and her team won. And her team included Mickey Loomis, Greg Benzel, Dennis Lauscha, Kai Hartley, the whole crew. The whole crew that continues to run the Saints organization with zero consequence. There is no consequence. If you, anyone you know in your circle showed up to their job today with the mentality that Mickey Loomis and that crew takes to the job, we would all be reprimanded. We would all be asked, who the hell do you think you are? What type of entitlement do you think you have to walk up in here and think that you can just walk around this place and make public statements as if you sit in a role of authority in a position that is very, as you even described it, Mickey, as a very attractive job because there's only 32 of them that exist. There's only 32 of your jobs that exist on the planet, and you suck up the air of one of them and openly admit that you don't even really do your job. You don't evaluate the roster. You don't know where they're drafting. You don't really know what's going on with the coaching search. You're interviewing guys that potentially could go to the Super Bowl. You don't have anybody targeted. But there's no consequence. And until the Saints publicly speak to him like he speaks to us, I mean, the disrespect of a year ago to get out there in front of the league, represent the league and the franchise, smacking gum and swiveling on a chair. Somebody should have told him behind the scenes, don't ever do that again. And then a year later to take to the podium and just openly admit, I don't really pay attention to the role. I don't really do my job. I don't evaluate the roster. I don't care where we're drafting. I'm not really checked into this coaching thing. So don't ask me. Don't ask me about it. Because I'm not taking your questions on it, and I don't have to. And I don't have any consequence on whether or not I find the right guy or I fall ass backwards into Sean Payton, which he's not. But the whole thing stinks, man. The whole thing smells like you've been just duped, spun,
bamboozled. The comments on this video are unbelievable. Saints fans are.
Oh, dude. I spoke to more New Orleanians yesterday of people just like texting like, no way that Mick just got up there. Like, I mean, like, this cat just openly, I mean, like, he just told you straight up, like, I care about this gig. I mean, like,